Welcome back to another episode of Product Misfires. My name is Pierre-Étienne Bousquet, and I am your host of this episode. I am also the president and co-founder of Thirdbridge. Thirdbridge is a software development agency. Essentially, we solve problems of companies through digital platforms and technology. Today, my guest is David Berg. So David is a super smart guy. Super knowledgeable in the healthcare world. His company, Redirect Health, is a company that really tries to solve the complexity behind healthcare services and products. They're trying to really do the difference for the average folks and for the small businesses that we have in this region in Scottsdale. So it's going to be a pleasure, a really fun episode, and stay tuned. All right, Dave, thank you so much for being here with us today, with me. Actually, I'm the only host of this show for now, Product Misfires. This is our second episode. I was thrilled to have you today. You talked to me about your company. You talked to me about the tech that you want to put in your domain in healthcare insurance and products, trying to make products as simple as possible for the companies, for the users. And one thing that, when we met, I was having issues with my company, right? Canadian company, trying to open up an office in Scottsdale, Arizona. We had one employee that requested healthcare. I did not know how to do it. And when we discussed it, I was like, hey, this is stupid, this is complicated, right? The same words we used last time. It was It was so tough, right? And I called you, I'm like, David, I do not understand how I can get healthcare down here. We're a small business, we have one employee, we want to grow. How can we make this work? And you simplified it, your team simplified it for us. And that was just such an easy flow and transition and having a good answer, but it's not easy out there to get those answers. So tell us about your company, tell us a bit about your background, and then we'll kick it off and talk about tech.
All right, so my company is Redirect Health, and essentially we exist to make healthcare affordable for small businesses. That's what we exist for. Every decision we make is as simple as that. Does it create affordability for small business? Now there's different aspects of that, meaning what's the cost and how much do people make? That's part of affordability. There's at least two sides to that. You can probably create a few other sides. Do I have the time to do it? Can I afford the time? Do I even understand it, right? Can I afford the mental energy around it? So it's a bigger deal, but affordability is what it comes down to for small business.
Sure, it's expensive.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I don't like people who work for big corporations or people who work for governments. I love them too. Or people on Medicare or people on Medicaid, but it's not our customer.
Right.
So we've designed a logistical platform in healthcare that helps small businesses and their workforce, which for the most part are hourly, afford healthcare. And we understand that everything about healthcare that gets averaged together with big corporations and government and Medicare and all the increased expenses that we're hearing, it's double, triple, 10x for the small business.
Right.
They're not separated out. It's so much different for small business. They're not even considered in the healthcare mix.
Right.
I've worked in the clinic space before, and easily we've done 3.5 million visits in Phoenix since we moved here from Toronto in 1995. My wife and I, who's a family physician.
Let's go.
And so we've seen a lot of American healthcare, but we brought down here some of a Canadian philosophies to some degree. That we can talk about if you want at some point.
But Dave, why start in that niche? Why the small businesses? Why was that?
Because we were a small
target?
business, and I learned after 10 years how to make money in healthcare in America. But I never could figure out. It took me 10 years, so I wouldn't say that's easy.
Right.
And I tried hard, and I got a lot of coaching. I still have the same strategic thinking coach that I hired way back then, 24 years ago. And here's what I learned. I learned that I could make a lot of money in healthcare. The pathway was pretty obvious. You do more services and you charge more per service, and you make money in healthcare in America. What I could never figure out, though, is how can I make it affordable for my own employees? I was a small business. That time we had 54 employees, 54 families. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to make it affordable. And back then, deductibles were only $250 a year, then $500 a year, then $1,000 a year, and then they were going to $1,500. Today they're at $5,000 and $7,000 a year. You double it for the family. So back then, I couldn't. This is about 2007, 2006. I couldn't figure out how to make it affordable for our own employees, and but I knew how to make money in it. So sometimes the thinking was, how do we just do some of the opposite things we're doing?
Yeah.
And I observed how we did healthcare for our own family. My wife's a primary care doctor. I was a chiropractor. I've practiced in a long time. But I just saw how our family used healthcare so differently. Mm-hmm. And we got better healthcare because we're insiders.
Yeah.
I got a mom with a medical degree. That's a huge advantage in America if you want healthcare.
A phone call away.
From everything.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is that how much we actually used healthcare, like made appointments and visited doctors, was no more than 1/10 as much as what we had to recommend to our patients in order to stay in business and operate within the ecosystem of healthcare in America. We didn't. If I didn't necessarily want to see you in the office, if I could make a phone call and tell you your lab results, but it wasn't really allowed. The system didn't set up for it.
Like, this is the path you need to take,
this is the pathway.
and that's how it is.
And the way it works, basically back then, was you had to come in the office in order for me to get paid.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for me to want to hire staff, have a lot of expense to do something that had no revenue attached to it.
Makes sense.
There's no sense. So I had to make an appointment. I had to make you take time off work. I had to make you waste a lot of time.
Absolutely.
I had to create.
But that was the system.
I had to create unnecessary activity for you,
correct,
so that I could get paid in the system that I was in.
Yeah.
But I recognized that we didn't have to do that when we took care of our kids. We took care of our neighbors. We took care of our friends and family back in Canada. It was very efficient. We didn't need the coding. We didn't need the rules that were only there for billing didn't apply. So what I decided to do back in 2007, that we launched in 2008, was to create a system of doing healthcare that mimicked what mom with a medical degree was already doing.
I like that. So that was your blueprint.
And then we started building technology around it. We started building philosophy around. That was the philosophy. Central philosophy was to mimic it, and we already saw it happening. My estimation, with about 50 families in our circle.
Okay.
Where we were managing their health care, even when they were in Canada or in other neighborhoods in Arizona. So it wasn't that hard to understand the philosophy, to add 54 more families. So we did that. It worked really, really well. We provided a level of healthcare they'd never experienced before in their life. I'm going to say that back then, about 3/4 of our employees made about $14 an hour. The other 1/4 made more, of 54 people. But because I came from Canada, you'll know this, there's somewhat of an expectation that everybody in the company is going to have access to healthcare. It doesn't make sense that 40% of your company would feel like they had access to healthcare and 60% would worry they didn't. And worry that if their children got a fever, they wouldn't know what to do, or if a child broke an arm, they wouldn't know what to do. So this have and have not system in America, it's not normal to us coming from Canada.
Yeah.
Nobody worries about healthcare, access to healthcare in Canada. Maybe they should, but they don't worry. There's a peace of mind around what's happening. I'm not saying Canadian system's better, because there's a lot of problems with it.
It's expensive, right?
Get in the way of access.
It's the most expensive.
It is very expensive.
Yeah.
But I wasn't used to the concept of only half or 40% of my company would really feel like they could access healthcare, and then I had to manage the other part. To me, it was like, I have 2 kids. It wouldn't make sense for me that only one kid had access to healthcare.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense that only half my employees had access to healthcare, and they did, but their spouses did, and their kids did. So I was trying to solve a different problem.
So for 10 years you were trying to sort of figure out that blueprint and scaling it.
I was trying to figure out how to make money in healthcare. And then for the next 10 years, more than that, 20 now, I've been figuring out how to make it affordable.
Good, yeah.
How to make it affordable for people.
No, you made money afterwards.
But they do go together.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right? They do go together. So if you can create affordability, I had to create a different business model where you get paid for creating affordability. Because the business model in America today for healthcare is not about creating affordability. It's about how do I create more services that are needed, a need for more services, and how do I charge a higher rate for each service?
So
how do I sell more cups at a higher price? How do I sell more MRIs at a higher price?
Dave,
that's how you make money in healthcare.
And usually, but when we see companies being able to bring down the prices, it's efficiency, it's different processes.
Yes.
You were talking about tech, and that's the topic of today, right? Tech. How did technology play a factor in you being able to make it affordable for your customers?
So it didn't start with tech. It started with us having a real problem that we wanted to solve, and it started with us having a strategy for a solution.
Yeah.
Now technology enhances that.
Correct.
But I could have had all kinds of technology, but if I didn't have a problem I wanted to solve for people I cared about, with a strategy that I thought I had advantage with, the technology would have been useless.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about creating a platform right from the beginning. And that means that we'd use technology where we needed it, and use people where we needed it, but it was less about the technology. It was more about the problem we wanted to solve for the people we care about with the strategy we had an advantage with.
And did that grow? Did that presence start small in technology and then grow?
Yeah, we didn't even think about technology, to tell you the truth. We were just thinking about the problem.
Awesome.
And we started thinking about
the best way, it's the cheapest way to do it.
But a lot of the principles in technology we applied. So the concept of a relational database and having a table with all the stuff that goes with it. I'm not even going to pretend because I'm going to misspeak and you're going to dig in. As soon as you start pulling the thread, I don't know anything I'm talking about. But where you want to have the information in one place and you want to pull from it from multiple places, right? So that was an obvious thing. And when things started to erode, it was sometimes we had to rebuild it.
Yeah.
That was a big part of building our platform. Today,
was there a lot of trial and error, or
lots of trial and error? Lots of things that work for a problem at a certain scale that didn't work for the same problem at another scale, and trying to anticipate it so we can get ahead of it and build a little more robust strategy or platform or structure. And the thing I never had that would have helped me a lot in the early days, even now, is I never had a mind for finance and for accounting, yes, business, yes, but for raising money and bringing in partners. I just never did that. I didn't have a comfort with it. I didn't have an experience with it.
It's bootstrap. It's
all bootstrap.
It's your own money.
And meaning that if I brought in 100, I better only spend 90.
Yeah.
Because I needed some money to live on, and then I needed some money to invest back in the company.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a slow boat. Right?
Yeah,
for sure. But so we've gone slow, we've backed up many times, but here's what hasn't changed. The problem we want to solve has not changed. The people we care about has not changed. The strategy of virtualizing primary care and streamlining healthcare, helping people avoid the steps to get to the end that they need to. If you need MRI, I don't want you to have to go through the orthopedic surgeon. I'll just order the MRI. Let's get the results, and then I'll send you to the orthopedic surgeon with the MRI. Like, that's streamlining. So basic stuff that every mom with a medical degree does intuitively. Every insider in healthcare does that intuitively. But virtualize primary care, streamline the system when we need to.
What does that mean, virtualize?
Get rid of the brick and mortar.
Okay.
Use telephone.
Okay.
It's not that hard.
Telemedicine.
I don't know. When I call my mom, I don't call it teleson. Right? I'm just using the telephone. I just use the telephone. Yeah. I don't know. We even
call a doctor.
We just have the doctor call you. Right? So our system today, our technology today, has our members, about 20,000 of them nationwide, that are on our health plans. They reach out to us through our app, and they tell us when they're available, and then they give us a little bit of information. We have all their medical records, and then we put the appropriate person on them based on what they tell us they need. But we call them back exactly at the time they tell us they're available.
And it works.
Think of why that's so valuable if you are an hourly employee.
It's huge.
It's huge. Most hourly employees that work for small businesses, I'm going to say 80% of them.
You have to punch out?
Go
in your car?
Yes.
Go to the hospital or the clinic?
The doctor, yeah. But you know how much money they make? 80% of small business hourly workers make less than $35,000 a year.
Minimum wage.
$17, $18?
Yeah.
That's normal wage. It's normal wage. So in order to make healthcare affordable for them, we have to make sure we don't interrupt their paycheck.
Makes sense.
Back to 2006 when I was trying to figure out this problem, in order to make healthcare affordable for my employees, I have some moves. I can lower the cost of the MRIs of the babies. Yep. That's a hard move. But what if I can avoid the MRI? Now it's zero. And what if I can not make them miss work? Now they don't lose the paycheck, right? So there's many levers that we can use in order to make healthcare affordable for this small business hourly worker that makes a normal wage of $17, $18, $19, $20 an hour, $35,000 is 85% of them. But that was the problem we're going to solve. It hasn't changed.
It's awesome. So that's today's system, right? This is what you have right now with the company, right? You have this system.
Yes.
You were able to transpose your philosophy through this app and through this system and process that you have.
And put the strategy in place that if we can virtualize and streamline primary health care, and I didn't mention this, but if we can do that so that we can eliminate unnecessary activity, activities everything, taking time off work, calling the doctor, driving, stopping the stop sign on your way there. It's just waste. So unnecessary activity, unnecessary waste, unnecessary administration. There is so much money made on healthcare administration in America. It is useless to everybody except for the administration, except the administration companies. Yeah. It provides no value for the customer, for the end user, for the purchaser or the user. It provides no value. So when we eliminate unnecessary activity and waste and administration and the spending that goes with it, there's the key to affordability. That strategy still works today as it worked 10 years ago.
Yeah.
As it's worked in every doctor when they're taking care, for every doctor's family when they're taking care of their family. It's a solid strategy for people that work for hourly people that work for small businesses. And I don't know about you, but I've been attracted to America for as long as I know because there's a spirit here that's different than anywhere else in the world, I believe. There's a human spirit, there's an entrepreneurial spirit, there's a hopeful spirit that exists in America that is hard to explain if sometimes.
It's just, people are going for it.
Yeah, I love Canada. I've got so many friends there, so many family members in Canada, but there is an allure to the American spirit that starts with that is very much has the entrepreneurial spirit, the small business spirit embedded in it. And I think it'd be such a shame if we lose that. And healthcare is a big threat.
It is
to small business. You experienced it yourself. You thought it was complex and stupid. You were feeling helpless or powerless, right? Yeah. Confused and powerless are probably two words that apply to your situation. Yeah. And you're a smart guy. Imagine if you were not a smart guy.
It's too much, right?
It's too much.
Overload of information. It was quite complex. I want to bring you back because you were talking about you're talking about your vision, right? It's clear. Yeah. You've had it. You've tried to build it. I want to know what happened as you were trying to build it and what did not work, right? Technology or not, what misfired, right? That's the name of the show here. I want to know what have you tried and you sort of broke your nose a little. You hit your nose on the wall and then you're like, hey, I've learned this lesson. I'm not going to do that again. We're going to do it this way. Okay. What comes to mind?
All right. You're not going to like it because it's not technology directly, but it is why I failed. Every time I failed, this has been the conclusion. I let go of the vision. I let somebody else tweak it. Mm-hmm. I let somebody else try to expand who we care about. I let somebody else define the problems of that person we care about, that hourly worker and that small business, that entrepreneur is trying to make it work. Nobody that I...
So you did,
I let it go too much.
You did let it go.
Yes,
my
fault.
What happened?
You want to bring other people in. You want to listen to other people's ideas.
Sure.
People have good ideas. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they've had ideas better than mine.
For sure. You want to surround yourself with smart people. So.
Right. When I've let go of the vision and tried to share it, things get built, things get automated, and if you at the end of it, you go, wow, this does not point to the hourly worker. This does not make healthcare more affordable. This just increased the cost.
So you're saying that
just keeping it in front of everybody. Now, my team would tell you today that I probably drive them crazy because I'm always making them prove to me that they understand our customer. They understand the problem of the customer. They understand the vision. They understand why.
It applies to every product.
And I do that today because I didn't do that in the past well enough. It wasn't their fault. I might cast the vision once and they'd hear it and I'd think they've got it. But
every now and then you would say it.
And then maybe it was once a week. Today it is many times a day. It is many times a day. It's every spreadsheet I see, that question comes up. How does this make healthcare more affordable?
I love that.
How does this eliminate unnecessary activity? How does this eliminate unnecessary administration? And a lot of times the answer is, oh, it doesn't.
Man, but this is powerful stuff. In terms of the role of a CEO in a company, it boils down to that, right? Being able to drive your vision. And whether it's healthcare, whether it's tech, it doesn't matter. That vision, if you let it go, and I agree with you, I've done it so many times of just, you have this idea, you have this vision, you surround yourself with smart people and you're like, this is the vision, guys, go, start building. And then they start building, but it's not, they lose track. And sometimes they build stuff that has no purpose, really. It's not aligned with the vision. So that's super interesting.
And I think what I didn't do
really cool.
what I didn't do well in the past that I do better, a lot better today, and I know I'll do it better in the future, is the concept of helping people course correct, and to make sure that taking the responsibility to make sure they're on the path, like they're not getting off the path too much, unless it's an intentional experiment. So it's definitely different being intentional versus unintentional. So I don't mind when something changes and it's intentional, it's an experiment, it's aware. It sure does drive me a lot crazier today than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The unintentional creep away from where we want to go, from the vision, from the people, from the real problem.
And let's talk about the experiments, because you are trying one right now. You talked to me last time about your experiment that you're trying with the Canadians and the Americans, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So how does that come into play? Where did you learn to do these experiments, and when do they come into play for you?
So the one you're talking about is, so we have a logistics platform that it really does eliminate unnecessary activity in healthcare and the spending and by virtualizing and streamlining. We've chose to apply that to small businesses. Glenn Williamson, the CEO of the Canadian Arizona Business Council, asked me if I would help solve a problem for Canadians who are they're stuck in the system, meaning they're not moving. The waiting lists for surgeries are really long. And the idea was, how do we help them get to the United States to get their services done? And could I help with that? Well, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I can direct my logistics platform, optimize it for small businesses and their hourly workforces, I know I can optimize it for Canadians who are stuck in the system. So check that box that I could optimize it for the people. It also checked the box that I care about small businesses a lot. I care about their hourly employees, the people, like the spirit. I care about it. Well, I also care about Canadians that are stuck in, like, feeling in limbo and stuck in Canada. So I care about them. I help many friends and family members get unstuck with our help over the telephone or coming to Phoenix. And it's rewarding, and it's because it's easy to do, and I care about the people. So Glenn checked a couple boxes for me. So I decided to run an experiment, and that experiment meant something as simple as create the product here, which we already had, but to direct it towards Canadians. I called Rogers, the media company up there, and I said, cast the vision. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I think the problem is. I don't think the problem is that people want to come to Arizona to get their knees replaced or their back surgery or their pacemakers put in. I think they're just stuck, and I want to help them, and that means a trip to Phoenix, or I'll get them down here. We can get them unstuck, and we could give them a diagnosis and coordinate with the doctors and resources in Canada. And I told her about a person. His name is Mike. He calls me. He's from Toronto. He calls me about his sister in Victoria, Vancouver Island, and she's having some trouble with over the last year. If her speech is off a bit, her gait is off. She's a little wobbly, and she's not that old. And he's really worried about her. And she finally decides, I'm gonna go see a doctor on Vancouver Island, and the doctor wants her to see a neurologist, but that's 6 months away. 6 months. And she has
before she sees someone who can say, hey, this is what
the
you
neurologist, and she hasn't any testing. So he calls me and I said, hey, we'll help her. This is before the Canadian.
Again, that would be the classic, hey, I have a buddy in Phoenix that could help me out.
We've done this so many times. Yeah. This is just a recent story. And we get her down here, we do the testing, and all of it costs about $2,000-3,000 to get all the testing done in a few days. Terrible diagnosis, terrible. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and she died 6 months later. But let's play this out a bit. She was stuck. She didn't have a diagnosis, and her family didn't know what was due next, and she was just like slowly dying. When we got a diagnosis, we could reach out to the neurologist in Canada that she was going to see in 6 months, who now saw her right away.
Right away, because that's how it works in Canada,
yes,
right? The more urgent it is.
Yes, but she had a diagnosis. That's all she had that she didn't have before.
So she came down here for a diagnosis, and then she was able to have.
We were able to
help in Canada.
To speed up the system in Canada because we had done the unsticking work, right?
Yeah.
We just got it moving. We just created a little momentum with the diagnosis. But here's the thing that I wasn't thinking about as much, but though I recognized it in the past, but I'd never really thought about it too much. What she really needed was not medical care. What she needed was the certainty of what was going to happen to her and to be able to be with her family with that certainty for the last 6 months. Right? That's what she needed. Mm-hmm. That's not healthcare, but it's effective healthcare. But what she also needed was handrails in the bathroom. She needed a ramp to get over her curb and get up and a little lift for her wheelchair. She needed a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. Those are all free services in Canada, my understanding.
Yep.
She wasn't able to access that without a diagnosis. With a diagnosis, she was able to do the things that her family needed to do for her and utilize the resources in Canada. She didn't need health care.
And there was
nothing really to do for her except let her die. She was going to die. We didn't know if it was going to be 6 months or 6 years, right? Who knows? It's a disease you just don't know about.
You don't know, yeah.
And so it's more than just healthcare. It's about people with a problem. And we used our logistics platform to help. And the experiment that you were asking about was, we just took that, just like mom with a medical degree,
package it,
and biomimic that for our employees.
Yeah.
Now we've had so many experiences with Canadians and us getting them unstuck and being able to use the Canadian resources. I told Glenn Williamson, the Canadian Arizona Business Council, let's try it. Now what that means is we got to tell people about it. So I created a landing page with the message and what we're trying to do. It's not about getting your care down here.
I saw it. It's crappy, right? It's just a landing page, a radio ad, super simple.
Yeah,
super scrappy.
And I committed $5,000 a month for 3 months.
There you go.
Just to see how it works. And I don't know how many, I'm going to say we've had 100 people respond to it in the last 2 months. I don't know.
You're saying you're investing $15,000 in this?
Well, it's an experiment. And I want to speed up the experiment.
No, but it's great. It's cheap. It's cheap. You're trying a new product, a new offering. For
you know what's funny is my wife has this thing that she said to me a long time ago when I tried to talk about a new business called Redirect Health. She said, it's not a business. I go, what? Well, it's a hobby. Until you start making money, it's a hobby. Until there's profit, it's a hobby. So it's an experiment.
Hey, that was the same for me.
It's my way of creating getting by my wife's filter for, is this a business or is it a hobby, is, do you make money? So I'm spending money. I spend money to go play golf, so I spend money to experiment with my logistics platform. To me, it's fun.
But you know what? It's fun, and you try stuff, and this is how you grow, this is how you learn, right? This is what we're seeing day to day with our customers. It's just trying to bring them to experiment as much as we can, as fast as possible to learn, right? So if you failed and you've invested $10,000, $15,000, it's not a big failure.
At least make sure you've invested it on the right problem for the people you care about.
Yeah.
Using the strategy that you have an advantage on.
Yeah.
Those are the three things I'm always thinking about. Is, do I understand the problem? Do I care about the people? And do I have a strategic advantage to help this problem for these people?
I love that.
If I get those three things checked, I've got a lot of energy for it.
And making sure that it's aligned with your vision.
Right.
And that's what I keep in mind, right? So thinking about the conversation we just had, that was the big one, is, you know, if you let go of your vision, or you try to give it to somebody else, or you don't hit it nonstop. That vision.
It is that hitting it nonstop part, and it's the, you know what I recognize that I'm making the dent that I want to when people start making fun of me. And they'll make fun of me by like mimicking my voice, saying my words in a goofy voice.
I love that.
To their colleagues.
You're saying
because they don't want to quite own it, but they want to like they want it to happen, but they don't want to have to own it.
No, it's kind of stuck in their head,
right? So I'm okay with that. I used to in the early days go, man, I think they're making fun of me right now. That's not very respectful. But I understand it's a natural place to be because they're not ready to own it yet. But making fun of me on an idea, a vision, is the step before they own the vision themselves. They care about the problem, they care about the people, they care about
spread it afterwards. Yeah. And Dave, this is what I keep in mind, right? It's thinking about this conversation is this vision, how far you can go with it and how you can handle it and just bring it to the next level, or else your product or your services will start slipping away from what you've designed them to do. And that's huge. And the other one is experimenting, right? What we just discussed, you're 12, 13 years in Redirect Health?
We started with the clinics in 1997, and then we created the platform for our own employees in 2008, and then we helped about 15 of our friends, entrepreneurial friends, including the former mayor of Phoenix, Paul Johnson, who's my partner today, and his brother, and it just worked. And then we turned it into a business in 2013. Just in Arizona, and 2018 we went nationwide, and
it's unbelievable. And how many employees? The entire group.
170 in this part of the business.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's massive.
And I think we can double the size with maybe adding 10% more.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
So
we're and the technology we're building right now. I want to you made me think of something. Our current CTO, his name is Lior Weinstein. He said something that was really, really resonated with me that I think applies to technology building.
Yeah.
And he said, don't fall in love with an idea. Fall in love with the problem. Because the passion for the idea is going to go away. The passion for the problem is likely not to go away because it's going to continue. Now, that made sense to me. And I've fallen in love with ideas many times. Mm-hmm. And then people or me, we lose passion for it. Yeah. We run out of money, we run out of time, something else happens, right? But the problem is it's there, and it's always going to be there for small businesses with an hourly workforce. This problem of healthcare and accessing it and affordability is always going to be there, and it's a problem that I get more passionate about solving because as we make headways into it, something changes, and something changes, and something changes. The system is quite complex, and there's a lot of people that make a lot of money that want to keep making a lot of money.
I know.
There's a lot.
And they're big.
They're big. They're big.
They're massive players.
Yeah.
And
the only way I can even think of helping these small businesses is help them have an alternative pathway where they don't have to play over here. It's an arena they don't play well in. It's an arena that doesn't want them in it.
Because you have to be nimble, probably. What you're doing is like, but I like these experiments because at your size, you're able to do them. At their size, they're not able to do it. They're too big. Sometimes these giant companies.
And I like to experiment stacked on top of what we've already created. Right? I don't want to experiment from. I don't really like experimenting from ground zero. Mm-hmm. That doesn't excite me too much. But when I build a capability, I love to experiment on top of that capability and stack. And when I get more capability, I like to stack on top of that. I like to add capability. I like to chunk it and say, okay, now I've got a chunk of lots of capabilities. How can I experiment with this building block of capabilities? And I like that because it seems like I've got...
You add layers of new experiments, not let's start it from scratch.
And it goes back to it gives me, I want to do things where I have a strategic advantage to start with. Mm-hmm. I don't have a strategic advantage learning how to do podcasts like this. I'd be starting from ground zero. I'd rather just be on your podcast and stack on top of yours than create my own. Because I don't have an advantage there. Mm-hmm. But I do have an advantage on healthcare logistics.
Correct.
Like for small businesses.
Yeah.
And maybe Canadians who are stuck in the system too. It seems to be working pretty well for them.
If you're stuck in limbo.
Yes.
Go to, what's your website?
redirecthealth.com. So Scottsdale Medical Travel.ca.
Because you know what? you're trying again.
So I had to think about it because I've got like 6 URLs, and the one I'm experimenting right now is ScottsdaleMedicalTravel.ca. So I also have ArizonaMedicalTravel.ca. I don't know what's hooked up yet, but I don't know what's going to work better. Scottsdale's a great brand.
Scottsdale.
so I'm tapping into the Scottsdale brand.
The
sexiness of Scottsdale. You get it, right? So
I do. It's marketing, but again, you're trying, and this is the fun part. This is
what
I love to see.
If you were in Canada, you wouldn't market Montreal. You market Toronto because that's where all the fun happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Maple Leaf travel. No. It's going to be the Habs. Come on. Yeah, and I like what your CTO is saying, right? Being obsessed with the problem.
Yeah, because the passion will last longer. And I definitely resonate with that. And it's helped me just hearing that because I've got stuck on ideas. Like I see shiny squirrels all the time. There isn't a day I don't see a shiny squirrel that's trying to entice me to do something or try something or experiment. And I've got more filters and checklists to go through. And again, when Glenn asked me to help the Canadians, it checked the boxes that I cared about.
Yeah. And
I was very thoughtful about it.
And your vision is aligned with the problem. Your vision, the way you're thinking about your business and what you do is not aligned on an idea. It's aligned on a problem, on something that you saw that was not right. You're like, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
How you're going to fix it? It probably evolved 1,000 times in the years that you've been doing what you're doing, but it's still the same problem. And it should be the same in tech. It should be regardless of what you're trying to build.
And right? You know what's interesting to me is that most problems, somebody has solved it. Some insider has solved it. Right? In healthcare, every mom with a medical degree has solved this problem. Let's just copy them. Let's just mimic them.
That's a good way to do it.
You know, it's like biomimicry. We copy the suction cups on frogs. Why not? Or the Velcro on caterpillars. Let's just copy how a mom with a medical degree does. It's biomimicry.
I love it. This is I think, a great point to stop. And it's been a great conversation, Dave. For me, again, what you've just shared today is super valuable because a lot of companies trying to, build apps and technology platforms on great ideas, not the right way. They stop experimenting because they become too big. Not a right idea. You need to stay nimble. You need to keep that mindset of trying stuff and failing as fast as you can sometimes.
And now with AI, how it can write code. Oh my gosh,
Let's go.
It's so incredible.
Yeah.
Leo, our CTO, he was showing me last weekend with just some prompts. Right, he built a website that did internal website, so it wasn't pretty yet. We did it in 2 minutes. That basically created a calculator of something that, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I think somebody doing this would take an hour to get the number out. No, he created the tool that'll do it in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Again, you're
and the tool, I believe, after watching him work on it, can be created easily within an hour. That then can save hours many times using AI.
Yeah, it's a new building block, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, leveraging it, adding layers on top.
I don't think CEOs today, they need to know how to build technology directly. They need to know how to cast vision and lead others who know how to build technology.
I agree.
I think they'll be more effective. It's too far ahead of the normal CEO that doesn't know technology already. And I don't have a passion for building I don't have a passion for being the one building the technology. I have the passion for the capability the technology will give me to solve a problem I care about.
Yeah. What's coming for you guys? You were talking to add maybe a small chunk of the size of your team to grow to double the business. Is that the goal? What's coming? What's next for Redirect Health?
So right now, we are not focusing on growth, though it's happening naturally, right? So we're not focusing on that. We do care a lot about revenue from renewals, so we want to make sure that people stay with us. Sure. And our renewal rate is super high, well over 90%, awesome. which is really, I like recurring revenue a lot. It makes life a lot easier, makes business a lot easier. But our focus right now is on automating. So for instance, I'm going to make up a number here, but you get the concept. If we have 1,000 invoices today, that takes a lot of work. We got to make sure they get right. We got some human beings looking at stuff, and there's a couple groups that maybe we've failed them in the past, or it wasn't as smooth, so we put extra eyeballs on checking their data. But every month when we send out invoices, it's a big deal. Right? Okay, we got to get it out. We got to get right. It's a big deal for us to send out invoices.
Yeah.
If we were to grow 10x, we could not send out invoices. We do not have the capability today to send out invoices. Yeah. However, we've got an invoice automation product that we're building that connects probably 5-6 different steps with human beings in between all of them. That with a better organization of the databases and the tables that are all connected, and so I can imagine within the quarter that I can do 10,000 invoices as easily as I can do 1,000 today. So I'm excited about that.
No kidding.
I'm excited about that because now we can turn on the growth and start experimenting with marketing in different markets with different messages and different sales techniques, prospecting differently. Right now, there's a lot of things we could do to improve sales, but I think we would struggle with the invoicing. Something as basic as
it would be a bottleneck.
It'd be a bottleneck for sure.
I get it.
Also, as we bring on more people, if we had 10 times more people, instead of 20,000 people, we had 200,000. All the hiccups that we have in coordinating visits with doctors on the outside. The stuff we do internally is easy, but we got to coordinate with the ecosystem on the outside. All the doctors, the hospitals, the pharmacies. We got to make sure things work, and we have to have the communication. When it doesn't work, we have to be aware of it not working with the communication back to us with an instant ability to correct it. We don't have those. We have some work. We have work to do with the volume we have. If I had 200,000 people, our system would break. Okay. It would not be able to do it.
That would
However,
be good news, though.
by the end of the quarter, that would be automated, and I believe we can do 200,000 people as easily as we can do 20. So that's how I'm thinking about technology: is what are the bottlenecks or the string of bottlenecks or
you can unblock.
Right.
Be able to scale.
Right. And the way we think about it is this is the order that matters to us, is de-risking. That means get rid of the risk, the security risk, the things breaking, whatever the risk is. But then also unclogging, which means where there's efficiency, where things are going too slow, or where we have to put human intervention and eyeballs on it so that we can scale.
Awesome.
So we've done it the opposite. Let's scale first, and then we'll figure out how to de-risk and how to unclog it later.
Hey, to each his own, but
I don't think our current CTO is doing such a wonderful job. He's so disciplined, and we're moving so much faster. And that's his philosophy, and I'm sure it's others also. But the concept of, hey, we're not going to worry about efficiencies and automation until we've de-risked.
Yeah.
We want to make sure what we have doesn't break with our current volume and with the new volume that's naturally happening.
It starts with an experiment, and then you grow it, and then you
there's a lot of experimenting with it. But the scaling part is last.
It's last.
So right now in the business, we have gone through the de-risking stage. There's not much more to de-risk for us. Things don't break like they might have in the past as we put more volume on it. But there are definitely some things that can be automated that will allow us to handle more business.
Okay.
And then they will also allow us to scale.
Awesome. Dave, you are an inspiring guy. You have your vision. It's rock solid. You have that problem that you're trying to solve, and I think it's making an impact, right? I think it's massive. 20,000 clients?
Yeah, 20,000 members that are on our platform that we help right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that all pay us monthly.
Small
and with
businesses.
A very high recurring renewal rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good for you. And thanks for sharing your insights on your services, your products, right? What worked, what didn't work. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn. And for me, that was a great episode. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
You can probably tell it's my favorite topic to talk about.
All right.
I don't have enough people to let me talk about it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Dave. And we'll see you on the next episode.